Greetings and welcome back to Scriptures Unlocked. This presentation is part 2 of 2 on the truth about Ruth, where I will demonstrate that Ruth was indeed an Israelite. In the previous presentation, we looked at a detailed history of the 4 nations that occupied the lands east of Canaan before Israel came out of Egypt. And as they made their way through the wilderness, they conquered the lands of the Amorites. They killed Sihon, king of the Amorites, and all his people. And they possessed his land from the Jabbok River down to the Arnon River. They then went up north and took on Og, king of Bashan, and they took control of his territory and possessed those lands. So at the time of the book of Ruth, which took place in the time of the judges, Israel occupied and dwelt in the land. And as Jephthah told us in Judges chapter 11, Israel dwelt in the land at the time when the king of the Ammonites was trying to lay claim to his land for 300 years. This presentation will now prove by looking at some of the objections that persons have raised. So let's now prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Ruth was indeed an Israelite by blood and not a Moabite. So Ruth chapter 1 verse 1 tells us, now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled. So the background to the book of Ruth is in the time when the judges ruled. And as you can see on screen, this is how the land was distributed when Israel conquered the land of Canaan and the lands east of Jordan. Reuben had this section where the plains of Moab is located. Gad had this section with the cities of Gilead and Jazer. Half the tribe of Manasseh controlled Mount Hermon all the way down to Edrei, and this was the land of Canaan and how it was distributed among the other 9.5 tribes of Israel. So this is where the book of Ruth begins, with Israel established in the land of Canaan for a long, long time. Ruth chapter 1 verse 1 says, now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled. So this is the background. And there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab. Notice, he went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, which means God is king. And the name of his wife, Naomi. And the name of his 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, Ephratites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. So twice in 2 verses, we are told that Elimelech and his family left the land of Judah and came into the country of Moab twice. So the scripture says they went to sojourn in the country of Moab and not the land of Moab. The country of Moab in the book of Ruth is not referring to the land of Moab, where the Moabites, Lot's descendants, lived south of the Arnon River. This needs repeating. The country of Moab in the book of Ruth is not referring to the land of Moab, where the Moabites, who were Lot's descendants, lived south of the Arnon River. The country of Moab is referring to the plains of Moab, north of the Arnon River, in the land given to the tribe of Reuben. Here are the biblical references to the country of Moab. It occurs a number of times in the scriptures, mostly in the book of Ruth. Numbers 21 verse 20 tells us this. And from Bamoth in the valley, that is in the country of Moab. So clearly, this verse is telling us that Bamoth is in the country of Moab, to the top of Pisgah, which looketh toward Jeshimon. And in Ruth chapter 1, verse 1, verse 2, and verse 6, we see the mention of the country of Moab. This is where Elimelech, Naomi, Mahlon, and Chilion left and came into. So these are the references to the country of Moab. And here you are seeing again in Ruth chapter 1, verse 22, Ruth 2, verse 6, Ruth 4, verse 3, and 1 Chronicles 8, verse 8, that the country of Moab is mentioned. And this area is speaking about the land that was assigned to the tribe of Reuben, not the land south of the Arnon River where the Moabites, descendants of Lot, live. This is very important to understand the lineage of Ruth. So notice what we find. Numbers 21 verse 20 tells us that Bamoth is a valley in the country of Moab or in the plains of Moab. Notice what we find here in Numbers 21 verse 17 to 20. Then Israel sang this song, "Spring up, O well, sing ye unto it. The princes digged the well, the nobles of the people digged it by the direction of the lawgiver with their staves. And from the wilderness they went to Mattanah, and from Mattanah to Nahaliel, and from Nahaliel to Bamoth, and from Bamoth in the valley that is in the country of Moab to the top of Pisgah, which looketh toward Jeshimon." So here you are seeing on screen the map where Bamoth is located. So just read a while ago in Numbers 21 verse 20 that Bamoth is in the country of Moab, and this is in the land that has been assigned to the Reubenites. And here you are seeing the plains of Moab. Notice that Numbers 21 verse 20 confirms, and from Bamoth, which is where you're looking at this white arrow, in the valley that is in the country of Moab, to the top of Pisgah, which looketh toward Jeshimon. So Bamoth is in the country of Moab, and the country of Moab is also known as the plains of Moab. And here you can see that Elimelech, Naomi, Mahlon, and Chilion, they left from Judah, which is in the land of Canaan, west of the Jordan River, and they crossed the Jordan River and came into the country of Moab, which is also known as the plains of Moab, in the land that the Reubenites were given by Moses. Therefore, viewers, Elimelech, Naomi, and their two sons went to live in the plains or country of Moab in the land of Reuben. Even though this particular area was given to the tribe of Reuben, it was still called the plains of Moab. I am from Jamaica, and similar to how places in Jamaica still have Spanish names, even today, such as Ocho Rios, which means 8 rivers, Rio Cobre, Santa Cruz, and Rio Bueno, after the British defeated the Spanish. So even after the British defeated the Spanish, the British still retained these places with their Spanish names. Therefore, there are places that are still called by their original names that were given by the previous inhabitants. So that is what is happening in the book of Ruth. They went to the country of Moab, which is in the plains of Moab, which is located in the land that has been assigned to the Reubenites. It is called the country of Moab or the plains of Moab because this area was once originally occupied and owned by the Moabites. Case in point, Deuteronomy 34 verse 5 states that Moses died in the land of Moab because the land was once Moabite territory before the Amorites dispossessed them. Again, the land of Moab is the same as the plains of Moab, which is the country part of the land and not the southern region beyond the Arnon River. Even today, viewers, people who live in the cities or urban areas might say they are going to the country, when in fact, they are going to the rural area. The area known as the country of Moab used to be Moab's farmlands. But in the days when the judges ruled, which is the time of Ruth, the tribe of Reuben was the sole occupant of that fertile area. Additionally, the Hebrew word for country is sadeh. It occurs a number of times in the scriptures. It is translated as field 292 times, country 17 times, land 11 times, wild 8 times, ground 4 times, and soil once. The outline of biblical use, this is how it is used in the scriptures or in the Bible. Field or land, cultivated field. So it is the farming area of Moab, of home of wild beasts. Plain, that is why it is also called the plains of Moab, opposed to mountain. So it is a valley. Land opposed to sea. Therefore, viewers, Ruth was from the country of Moab, in the land of Reuben, since that's where Mahlon and Chilion took wives of the women of Moab. Very important. Ruth was from the country of Moab. That is where they came to after they left Judah. They came into the country of Moab, in the land of Reuben, since that's where Mahlon and Chilion took wives of the women of Moab. However, some may argue and posit that Ruth cannot be an Israelite because the scripture refers to her and Orpah as women of Moab. We need to understand what this phrase means as well. Women of Moab. The phrase women of Moab appears only once in the King James Version and can be seen below in Ruth 1 verse 4, which states, and they took them wives of the women of Moab, that's Mahlon and Chilion. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth, and they dwelled there about 10 years. So Elimelech, Naomi, Mahlon and Chilion left from the land of Judah, Bethlehem, Judah, and came into the country of Moab. And the two sons, they took them wives of the women of Moab. One was Orpah and the other was Ruth. Again, viewers, there's a distinction that must be made between the women of Moab and the daughters of Moab, because they are two different Hebrew words and have different meanings. Here is the Hebrew word that is translated as Moab, and it is used for the women of Moab. It's Moabi, and it is an adjective. And it has been translated 16 times, Moabite 7 times, Moabitess 6 times, Moab twice, and Moabitish once. Outline of biblical usage. Moabite, from father, what father? A citizen of Moab, an inhabitant of the land of Moab. So an inhabitant of the land of Moab, if you're a female, you are referred to as a woman of Moab. So a woman of Moab is a citizen of Moab. And remember, in the previous presentation, it was clearly shown that the entire area from the Jabbok River down to the Zered River was owned and occupied by the Moabites. So it was called the land of Moab. So people who lived in that area were called women of Moab or men of Moab. Notice what we find translated as Moab when it is used of the daughters of Moab. It is the word Moab. And this one is a proper locative noun or a proper masculine noun. This Moab is of his father. Proper masculine noun, a son of Lot by his eldest daughter. The nation descended from the son of Lot, and it's a proper locative noun. The land inhabited by the descendants of the son of Lot. So the daughters of Moab are direct descendants of Moab, Lot's son, with his eldest daughter. The women of Moab are persons who lived in the land of Moab. It doesn't speak to their lineage or heritage. So the women of Moab are women who are citizens or inhabitants of the land of Moab. The daughters of Moab are females who are direct descendants of Moab, the son of Lot, by his eldest daughter. Therefore, viewers, women of Moab are citizens of Moab or inhabitants of the land of Moab, whereas the female descendants of Lot's son are called daughters of Moab. The phrase daughters of Moab occurs only twice in the King James Version in the following verses. Numbers 25 verse 1, which says, and Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And also in Isaiah 16 verse 2, which says, for it shall be that as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon. As mentioned in the previous presentation, the Moabites were the offspring of incest, and God prohibited any marriages between Israelites and the sons or daughters of Moab. God did not want the holy seed to be tainted or polluted, which is what happened in Numbers 25. Notice what transpired when there was a commingling with the daughters of Moab. Numbers 25 verse 1. And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. So sexual interactions were taking place. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods. And the people did eat and bow down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor. And the anger of Jehovah was kindled against Israel. And those that died in the plague were 24,000. So notice, the men of Israel committed whoredom with the daughters of Moab. Not the women of Moab, the daughters who were direct descendants of the son of Lot, who was named Moab. The daughters of Moab were the actual descendants of Lot that were born as a result of incest. And God sent a plague to wipe out 24,000 persons who were engaged in the act of whoredom. Notice as well, viewers, what we read after Judah returned from captivity. Mixed marriages, Ezra 9, verse 1 to 2. Notice what we read. Now, when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations. And notice the nations that were listed. Even of the Canaanites, who were descendants of Ham, incestuous act that he perpetrated upon his mother. The Hittites, who were Ham's second son, who came from Heth. The Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites and Moabites were product and offspring of incest. The Egyptians and the Amorites. The Amorites were sons of Canaan, who was a product of incest. Verse 2 says, for they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers hath been chief in this trespass. Therefore, viewers, there's a difference between the daughters of Moab and the women of Moab. Because if you're a citizen of a particular area, then you are known as a woman of X, irrespective of your lineage. Similar to in the New Testament, people were categorized based on where they were from. You can think of Mary Magdalene. She was from Magdala. And the man who carried Jesus' cross was from Cyrene. He was known as Simon of Cyrene. So people were known based on where they came from, but it did not speak to their lineage or heritage. Therefore, viewers, Ruth was a citizen or woman of Moab simply because she lived in the area that was once owned by the Moabites, but she was not, and I repeat, she was not a descendant of Lot's son Moab. Ruth was a Reubenite. There are many biblical examples of people being identified by the places where they have lived, even though they are not descendants of that nation or its people. Case in point, Moses. Let's read about Moses' birth. Exodus 2, verse 1. And there went a man of the house of Levi and took to wife a daughter of Levi. There it is again. Daughter of Levi. She's a direct descendant of Levi, Jacob's son. So Moses' parents, his father was from Levi, from the tribe of Levi, and his mother was also from the tribe of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and with pitch and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off to wait what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river. And her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Notice that. So she looked at Moses and she knew his lineage. She knew that he was a Hebrew. But Moses was born in Egypt. And the child grew and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter. And he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water. Verse 11 says, and it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. So there it is again. Moses' lineage was Hebrew. He was an Israelite. And he looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to them, and he said to him that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou kills the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. And Moses escaped he ran away, he fled to Midian. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. So notice, Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian, but was he an Egyptian? The answer is both yes and no. Moses was born in the land of Egypt, so he was an Egyptian by nationality, but Hebrew by blood, since he was the son of Amram and Jochebed, who were Levites. Moses also lived in Midian for 40 years. He spent 40 years in Egypt, and when he ran away, he spent 40 years in Midian. So he was also a Midianite based on where he lived. But Moses was an Israelite by heritage. Another objection that persons raise is that Ruth was not an Israelite because of what she and Orpah said in Ruth 1 verse 10, which is this. And they said unto her, surely we will return with thee unto thy people. So because Ruth said that she will return with Naomi unto thy people, persons have said that Ruth was from a different nation. But Ruth was not saying that. Ruth and Orpah were not saying that they were from another nation. She simply wanted to return with Naomi to the land of Judah, to the land of the Jews, who were Naomi's people. Here's the context. Let's read the context. Ruth 1 verse 6 onwards. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab. There it is. They came to the country of Moab, which is in the plains of Moab, in the land assigned to the tribe of Reuben. For she had heard in the country of Moab how that Jehovah had visited his people in giving them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her. And they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. So that's where they were going back. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, go, return each to her mother's house. Jehovah deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. Jehovah grant you that ye may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, surely we will return with thee unto thy people. So here you can see on this map that Elimelech, Naomi, Mahlon, and Chilion did not come into the land of Moab, this section south of the Arnon River, because this was Moabite territory. This is known as the land of Moab as well, but it is Moabite territory. They did not, I repeat, they did not come into Moabite territory. They went from Judah to the country of Moab, which is also known as the plains of Moab, in the land assigned to Reuben. And the country of Moab was now the land occupied by the Reubenites. So what was happening now? They were now leaving from the country of Moab to go back to the land of Judah. So Naomi and her 2 daughters-in-law were now on their way back to the land of Judah. But Orpah decided that she was going to stay. But Ruth persisted and went back with Naomi. So another objection that persons raised to say that Ruth was a Moabite is that both women of Moab, Orpah and Ruth, had other gods, and Ruth wanted Naomi's God to be her God. Notice what we read in Ruth 1 verse 15 to 17. And she said, behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said, and this is the most famous verse in the book of Ruth, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest, will I die, and there will I be buried. Jehovah do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. Naomi was not referring to idols or false gods when she said, Orpah has gone back unto her people and unto her gods. That's not what she was speaking about. Naomi was simply saying that Orpah has gone back to her people in the land of Reuben and to her judges. How do we know this? The Hebrew word translated as gods in Ruth 1 verse 15 is Elohim. This word can be translated in a number of ways. Elohim is the plural form of the word Eloah, which means God. The plural form literally mean gods. It can mean rulers or judges. It can mean divine ones. It is used of angels. It is used of false gods. It is a plural intensive noun with a singular meaning. It can mean God or goddess, godlike one, works or special possessions of God. And it is used for the true God, the God of the Bible. So notice the word Elohim occurs 2,606 times in the scriptures. And it is translated as God 2,346 times, God 244 times, Judge 5 times, God, capital G-O-D, 1 time, and so forth. Elohim, gods in the ordinary sense, but specifically used in the plural, thus especially with the article of the supreme God, occasionally applied by way of deference to magistrates or judges. So viewers, Elohim can be translated in a number of ways. Therefore, it's a context which dictates which meaning is to be applied. Remember that the events in the book of Ruth takes place in the days when the judges ruled, Ruth 1 verse 1. And each tribe, each of the 12 tribes had their own judges. Viewers, judges are appointed over the people, as can be seen below. Notice what we read in Exodus 18. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from the morning unto the evening. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, what is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone, and all the people stand by thee from morning unto evening? And Moses said unto his father-in-law, because the people come unto me to inquire of God. When they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one and another, and I do make them know the statutes of God and his laws. Jethro was now going to counsel Moses. And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, the thing that thou doest is not good. Thou wilt surely wear away both thou and this people that is with thee, for this thing is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform it thyself alone. Hearken now unto my voice. I will give thee counsel, and God shall be with thee. Be thou for the people to Godward, that thou mayest bring the causes unto God. And thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shall show them the way wherein they must walk, and the work that they must do. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, and rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And let them judge the people at all seasons. And it shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto thee, but every small matter they shall judge. So it shall be easier for thyself, and they shall bear the burden with thee. And Moses chose able men out of all Israel, and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of 10. And they judged the people at all seasons. The hard cases they brought unto Moses, but every small matter they judged themselves. So this is the genesis of the judges in Israel. Notice this verse in Exodus 22 verse 28. Thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. This is classic Hebrew parallelism. Notice what God inspired Moses to write above, because judges or rulers were called gods, and it was not talking about false gods of the surrounding nations. So here, it's not talking about idols, because it cannot revile idols or rebuke idols. God inspired Moses to write, thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. So the gods in this verse is referring to the ruler of thy people, the judges. Additionally, notice that judges were assigned in each tribe according to Moses' instruction. Deuteronomy 16 verse 8 says, judges and officers shall thou make thee in all thy gates, which Jehovah thy God giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. So judges were placed over all 12 tribes. Therefore, Naomi was not talking about false gods like Chemosh Molech, Dagon, or Ashtoreth. Ruth, on the other hand, was simply saying that she would leave the land of Reuben and those judges and go to the land of Judah and be under or subject herself under Naomi's judges, the judges in the land of Judah. Notice again the most famous verse in the book of Ruth, where she's quoted to have said, "Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God." Notice the verse. And Ruth said, "Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be," the "shall be" is in italics. "Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God." The persons have used this verse to say that Ruth was from a different people from Naomi. She was from a different nation, because she said, "Thy people shall be my people," which means they were not her people before, "and thy God my God." So that is what the King James Version quotes Ruth to have said, "Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God." However, a careful look at the translation of Ruth 1 verse 16 shows that "shall be" is in italics, which means it is not in the original manuscript, but was added to the biblical text. Here's a disclaimer, and this disclaimer can be found in your King James Version of the Bible. And they tell us what the italicized words mean. Here's the disclaimer. The italicized word in the King James Bible are words that were added by the translators to help the reader. This is usually necessary when translating from one language to another, because word meanings and idioms change. So to produce a more readable translation, the King James translators added certain words to the Bible text. However, to make sure that everyone understood that these words were not in the available manuscripts, they set them in italics. And that is good of them to put this disclaimer. So when you see words in the King James Version in italics, it was not in the original manuscript, but it was added to help the readers. So the addition of "shall be" gives the false impression that Ruth was from a different nation and that she served other gods, but that's not the case. Additionally, the phrase "thy God, my God" is not referring to the only true God either, but Naomi's judges, based on the context of the verse. So they were speaking about leaving her judges to go back to Naomi's judges. The verse should have been translated as such: "Thy people, my people, and thy gods, my gods." It shouldn't even have been translated as capital G-O-D, meaning the one true God. That's not what they were talking about. The verse should have been translated as such: "Thy people, my people, and thy gods, my gods. Thy judges, my judges," because Ruth was referring to Judah's judges. Ruth, viewers, was an Israelite who knew God Almighty, which is evident when she swore by his name below in the very next verse, Ruth 1 verse 17, when she said, "Where thou diest will I die, and there will I be buried. Yehovah," Strong's H 3068. That's the name of God Almighty. "Do so to me and more also, if aught but death part thee and me." Here's God's name in the Hebrew. It is pronounced Yehovah. It occurs 6,519 times in the Hebrew scriptures. But in the King James Version and in many other versions of the Bible, it is translated as capital L-O-R-D, 6,510 times in the King James Version, capital G-O-D 4 times, and they use the actual name, which is a transliteration of Yehovah, the Hebrew, to Jehovah 4 times. So Yehovah means the existing one. It is the proper name of the one true God. So Ruth knew the one true God because she was an Israelite and she swore by his name. Another objection that persons raise is that Ruth was not an Israelite because she referred to herself as a stranger. This conclusion is arrived at by using Ruth 2 verse 10 as support. However, let's read the context again. Context is always king. Ruth 2 verse 8 onwards. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? When thou art athirst, go unto the vessels and drink of that which the young men have drawn. Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground, and said unto him, why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? So Ruth admitted that she was a stranger. So persons have said that she was from a different nation and she was a Moabite. However, Ruth was simply asking, why do you take notice of me, seeing I am a stranger? Seeing that you don't know me. Boaz then responded in Ruth 2 verse 11 by telling Ruth what he knew about her, and even confirmed that she was indeed a stranger to the people of Judah. Notice what we read in Ruth 2 verse 11. And Boaz answered and said unto her, it had fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity, and art come unto a people which thou knewest not heretofore. So the land of nativity means the land of Ruth's birth, which was in the country of Moab, in the land allotted to the tribe of Reuben, also known as the plains of Moab. Because remember, Elimelech, Naomi, Mahlon, and Chilion went to the country of Moab, and the country of Moab is located in the plains of Moab, which is in the land that the Reubenites were given. That's where she was born. That's where she's from. Because Boaz here says he has heard all about Ruth, how she has left the land of her nativity, where she was born. And she was born in the country of Moab, which is the area which was occupied by the tribe of Reuben. So Ruth was a Reubenite. She was an Israelite. Ruth, viewers, was a Reubenite, and therefore a stranger to the people of the tribe of Judah, because she did not know them prior to coming to the land of Judah with Naomi. Viewers, there are even biblical references to prove that Israelites in their own land are referred to as strangers if they were from a different tribe. Notice these biblical references. Numbers 1 verse 50 onwards. This is God speaking through his prophet Moses. But thou shalt appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of testimony, and over all the vessels thereof, and over all things that belong to it. They shall bear the tabernacle and all the vessels thereof, and they shall minister unto it, and shall encamp round about the tabernacle. And when the tabernacle setteth forward, the Levites shall take it down. And when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. And notice this now. And the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. Notice, all the other tribes are referred to as stranger as it relates to the work of the sanctuary or tabernacle. Only the Levites were supposed to be in charge of the tabernacle. And the children of Israel shall pitch their tents. So notice it's talking about the children of Israel, but it separated the Levites from among the children of Israel. And notice, Levi was the third son of Jacob, but he did not receive any land inheritance. God was his inheritance. He had sole charge of the tabernacle. The children of Israel shall pitch their tents, every man by his own camp, and every man by his own standard through their host in their own tribes. But the Levites shall pitch round about the tabernacle of testimony, that there be no wrath upon the congregation of the children of Israel. And the Levites shall keep the charge of the tabernacle of testimony. So this was the commandment, viewers. But in Numbers 16, Korah, who was a Levite, and his gang rebelled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness, because Korah desired the priesthood. He was not satisfied with being a Levite, because all priests are Levites, but not all Levites are priests. The priests came directly from the line of Aaron. So Aaron and his sons were given the priesthood, and the Levites were supposed to assist the priests, sons of Aaron, in their ministration of the tabernacle. Korah's rebellion led to his demise, and God then made this pronouncement in Numbers 16 verse 36. And Jehovah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, that he take up the censers out of the burning, and scatter thou the fire yonder, for they are hallowed. And Eleazar the priest took the brazen censers, wherewith they that were burnt had offered, and they were made broad plates for a covering of the altar. And notice what God said now. To be a memorial unto the children of Israel, that no stranger, which is not of the seed of Aaron, come near to offer incense before Jehovah. So if you are not of the seed of Aaron, you are considered to be a stranger. Only Aaron and his seed were allowed to burn incense before God. And what Korah and his gang did, they took up their censers and they burned incense, and they were destroyed as a result. So God is saying, use the censers that they offered incense in and make broad plates of them to be a memorial unto the children of Israel, that no stranger, which is not of the seed of Aaron, no other Israelite that is not of the seed of Aaron, come near to burn incense before Jehovah, that he be not as Korah and as his company, as Jehovah said to him by the hand of Moses. So all other Israelites were considered strangers as it relates to the tabernacle and the services of the tabernacle. Therefore, viewers, it is clear, very clear, that even an Israelite not from the tribe of Levi was considered a stranger as it relates to the tabernacle and its work. Additionally, only a Levite from Aaron's line could offer incense before God. Finally, Ruth could not have been a Moabite by blood, but indeed an Israelite because of the law concerning the Levirate marriage. The Levirate marriage is literally a marriage between a widow and her brother-in-law. It was an ancient Israelite custom and law which states that if a man died without a child, then the man's brother would marry his widow in order to provide an heir for his deceased brother. The firstborn in that union would be deemed the heir of the deceased brother, and hence the legal descendant entitled to claim the dead brother's share of inheritance. This law was codified in Deuteronomy 25, but was being practiced centuries before, as can be seen below. And this is going back all the way to Genesis 38, verse 6, with the son of Jacob, Judah. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. She was an Israelite. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Jehovah, and Jehovah slew him. And Judah said unto Onan, go in unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. But notice what he did. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased Jehovah, wherefore he slew him also. Viewers, in ancient times, the passing on of the family inheritance within a tribe in Israel was vitally important, as can be seen in this story below. I'm giving you all these stories to make the point about what was transpiring in the book of Ruth. Let's now turn to Numbers 26, reading from verse 33, and then Numbers 27. And Zelophehad, the son of Epher, had no sons, but daughters. And the names of the daughters of Zelophehad were Mahlah and Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. And notice now the law of inheritance. Numbers 27, reading from verse 1 onwards. Then came the daughters of Zelophehad, the son of Epher, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the son of Joseph. And these are the names of his daughters: Mahlah, Noah, and Hoglah, and Milcah, and Tirzah. And they stood before Moses and before Eleazar the priest, and before the princes and all the congregation, by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, our father died in the wilderness, and he was not in the company of them that gathered themselves together against Jehovah, in the company of Korah, but died in his own sin, and had no sons. Why should the name of our father be done away from among his family, because he had no son? Give unto us therefore a possession among the brethren of our father. And Moses brought their cause before Jehovah. And Jehovah spake unto Moses, saying, the daughters of Zelophehad speak right. Thou shalt surely give them a possession of an inheritance among their father's brethren, and thou shalt cause the inheritance of their father to pass unto them. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, and this was now the law that God was going to establish. If a man die and have no son, then he shall cause his inheritance to pass unto his daughter. And if he have no daughter, then he shall give his inheritance unto his brethren. And if he have no brethren, then he shall give his inheritance unto his father's brethren. And if his father have no brethren, then shall he give his inheritance unto his kinsman that is next to him of his family, and he shall possess it. And it shall be unto the children of Israel a statute of judgment, as Jehovah commanded Moses. So that was the law of inheritance. Here is now the law of inheritance by marriage. Numbers 36, verse 1. And the chief fathers of the families of the children of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of the sons of Joseph, came near and spake before Moses and before the princes, chief fathers of the children of Israel. And they said, Jehovah commanded my Lord to give the land for an inheritance by lot to the children of Israel. And my Lord was commanded by Jehovah to give the inheritance of Zelophehad, or brother, unto his daughters. And notice what was happening now. Notice what they feared. And if they be married, the daughters of Zelophehad, and if they be married to any of the sons of the other tribes of the children of Israel, then shall their inheritance be taken from the inheritance of our fathers, and shall be put to the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they are received. So shall it be taken from the lot of our inheritance. And when the jubilee of the children of Israel shall be, then shall their inheritance be put unto the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they are received. So shall their inheritance be taken away from the inheritance of the tribe of our fathers. And Moses commanded the children of Israel according to the word of Jehovah, saying, the tribe of the sons of Joseph hath said, well, this is the thing which Jehovah doth command concerning the daughters of Zelophehad, saying, let them marry to whom they think best. Only to the family of the tribe of their father shall they marry. So shall not the inheritance of the children of Israel remove from tribe to tribe, for every one of the children of Israel shall keep himself to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers. And every daughter that possesseth an inheritance in any tribe of the children of Israel shall be wife unto one of the family of the tribe of her father, that the children of Israel may enjoy every man the inheritance of his fathers. Neither shall the inheritance remove from one tribe to another tribe, but every one of the tribes of the children of Israel shall keep himself to his own inheritance. Even as Jehovah commanded Moses, so did the daughters of Zelophehad. For Mahlah, Tirzah, and Oglah, and Milcah, and Noah, the daughters of Zelophehad, were married unto their father's brothers' sons. And they were married into the families of the sons of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in the tribe of the family of their father. So this was what God prescribed as it relates to the law of inheritance and the law of inheritance by marriage. Let's now look at the levirate marriage law, which is found in Deuteronomy 25, verse 5, which is what took place in the book of Ruth. I'm giving you this information so you can understand what is happening in the book of Ruth. Deuteronomy 25, verse 5 onward says, if brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. There is that word again, stranger. So she could not go and marry someone else from another tribe. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her, and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother, which is dead, that his name be not put out of Israel. And if the man like not to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate unto the elders, and say, my husband's brother refuseth to raise up unto his brother a name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother. Then the elders of his city shall call him and speak unto him. And if he stand to it and say, I like not to take her, then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe from off his foot, and spit in his face, and shall answer and say, so shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house. And his name shall be called in Israel the house of him that hath his shoe loosed. So that was the levirate law. Deuteronomy 25, verse 5 to 10. So now that we've established the law regarding the levirate marriage and the kinsman redeemer, let's now examine the story of Ruth and Boaz. So we are now in Ruth chapter 2. Ruth gleans in Boaz's field. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess, because she was from the land of Moab, the country of Moab, which originally belonged to the Moabites, but she was not a Moabite by blood. She was born her land of nativity was in the land of Reuben. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned the field after the reapers. And her hap was light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. All that is happening here is providence. It says on her hap. This was not by chance. This was divinely ordained. Let's now jump down to verse 17. So she gleaned in the field until even, and beat out that she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it up and went into the city. And her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she brought forth and gave to her that she had reserved after she was sufficed. And her mother-in-law, Naomi, said unto her, where hast thou gleaned today? And where wroughtest thou? Blessed be he that did take notice of thee. And she showed her mother-in-law with whom she had wrought, and said, the man's name with whom I wrought today is Boaz. And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, blessed be he of Jehovah, who hath not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead. And Naomi said unto her, the man is near of kin unto us, one of our next kinsmen. And then next chapter, chapter 3, Boaz will redeem Ruth. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, my daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now, is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. And now Naomi is going to advise Ruth what to do. Wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor. But make not thyself known unto the man, until he shall have done eating and drinking. And it shall be, when he lieth down, that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie. And thou shalt go in and uncover his feet, and lay thee down, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do. And she said unto her, all that thou sayest unto me I will do. And she went down unto the floor, and did according to all that her mother-in-law bade her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn. And she came softly, and uncovered his feet, and laid her down. This had significance, as we will find out. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid, and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. So she wanted Boaz to redeem her. And he said, blessed be thou of Jehovah, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich. And notice what he was now going to say. And now, my daughter, fear not, I will do to thee all that thou requirest, because he knew what she wanted when she uncovered his feet. She was now submitting herself under his care. And notice what he said, fear not, I will do to thee all that thou requirest, for all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thy near kinsman. Howbeit, there is a kinsman nearer than I. Tarry thee this night, and it shall be in the morning that if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman part. But if he will not do the part of a kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of a kinsman to thee. As Jehovah liveth, lie down until the morning. So notice, viewers, how careful Boaz was in keeping the law of the kinsman, because he knew someone else had stronger ties, as well as the first right of refusal. Pay keen attention to the events which transpired afterwards, and notice the providence of God at play, the marriage of Ruth. So he told Ruth to lie down until the next morning, and he will go in search of the relative that had stronger and closer ties to Naomi and Ruth. Ruth 4, chapter 1, the last chapter of the book of Ruth, just 4 chapters. Then went Boaz up to the gate and sat him down there. And behold, not by chance, providence. And behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, unto whom he said, oh, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit ye down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi that is come again out of the country of Moab, there it is again, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's. And I thought to advertise thee, saying, buy it before the inhabitants, and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there is none to redeem it beside thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. Then said Boaz, what day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. And note what the kinsman said. And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. Now this was the manner in former time in Israel, concerning redeeming and concerning changing. For to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor. And this was a testimony in Israel. Therefore, the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. Verse 10 says, moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, or redeemed to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place. Ye are witnesses this day. So he was now talking about the levirate marriage. He was now going to marry Ruth, his relative's widow, and raise up a child upon his inheritance, Mahlon's inheritance. So when the nearest kinsman declined and relinquished his right, Boaz stepped in as a kinsman redeemer to fulfill the law of the levirate marriage. And Ruth chapter 4, verse 11 tells us this. And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. Jehovah make the woman that is come into thine house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel. And do thou worthily in Ephrathah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which Jehovah shall give thee of this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in unto her, Jehovah gave her conception, and she bare a son. And this son started the line of David. And Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom, and became nurse unto it. And the women, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. Obed, he is the father of Jesse, the father of David. So the child that Ruth and Boaz had was called Obed. He is the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of David. So Ruth was the great grandmother of King David. So viewers, it has been clearly shown that Boaz took all the necessary steps to keep God's levirate law, and he married Ruth, the Israelite, from the country of Moab in the land given to the Reubenites. Therefore, viewers, Ruth was from the tribe of Reuben, and she was born during the time of the judges in the land that was once occupied by the Moabites. And remember when you looked at Judges chapter 11, Jephthah told us that the Israelites were living in the land for 300 years. Jephthah was a judge. Ruth's story takes place in the time when the judges ruled. So the Reubenites were the ones that were living in the country of Moab, in the plains of Moab. That is where they were assigned their land. And remember, we went through in the first presentation that no Amorites, no Moabites were living above the Arnon River in Israelite territory. They killed every single Amorite that was there. And that is why I went through the detailed history of who occupied the area east of Jordan to prove that no Moabite was living in the land, only Israelite. And Ruth was a Reubenite. Her land of nativity was the land of Reuben in the country of Moab, also known as the plains of Moab. Here you can see again on the map that the country of Moab, this section, is in the land of Reuben. And remember Bamoth, Numbers 20, 1 verse 20 tells us that Bamoth in the valley is in the country of Moab. So here it is, the country of Moab where Ruth came from is in the land of Reuben, not down here where the Moabites, descendants of Lot, dwelt. Elimelech, Naomi, Mahlon, and Chilion left the land of Judah, and they came into the country of Moab in Reuben's territory. They took them wives of the women of Moab, and they're called women of Moab because this entire section was once Moabite territory. It still retained the name country of Moab or plains of Moab. So viewers, this presentation makes it absolutely clear that Ruth was indeed an Israelite and not a Moabite by blood. So Ruth was not a Moabite by blood because of God's law found below. We started in the previous presentation with these two verses. Deuteronomy 23 verse 2 and 3, which says, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of Jehovah, even to his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of Jehovah. And a bastard is a child of incest. And it goes on to say an Ammonite or a Moabite. These were products of incest. An Ammonite or a Moabite were descendants of the incestuous act performed by the two daughters, shall not enter into the congregation of Jehovah. Even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of Jehovah. For how long? Forever. So viewers, this presentation makes it clear that Ruth was indeed an Israelite and not a Moabite by blood. So when persons say, and I used to believe this as well, so when persons say that Ruth was a Gentile and she is in Jesus's genealogy, it is incorrect. Ruth was an Israelite. There are no Gentiles in Jesus's genealogy. Jesus was born from Jewish stock. God made it absolutely clear, and God preserved the bloodline. Jesus came from the tribe of Judah, and his bloodline was pure and untainted. So there are no heathen in Jesus's bloodline. Every single woman that is mentioned in Matthew and Luke in the genealogy of Jesus are Israelites. So there are no heathen, no Gentile in the genealogy of Jesus. They were all Israelites. So Ruth, as this presentation has shown, was indeed an Israelite from the tribe of Reuben. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and may God continue to bless us as we study his word to prove all things. Have yourselves a wonderful day.